It's 37 and a half?
Okay, it's 7
So what
o'clock.
town do you work for? What's the municipal golf course?
I see that we have a quorum.
What's the name?
I ran Cedar Hill. Right on 27.
Yeah.
And I'm going to call the meeting to order of the April 25th, 2022 annual spring meeting. Last night I thanked everyone, for support over the years, and
You sit next to me?
unfortunately, I did forget to thank our IT director and WCTV. Without them, we would be doing paper everything. And so they play a big role. And over the years, it's a lot of work for them to set up. And I do want to say thank you. You're my heroes. Thank you. So we're going to move on. Madam Clerk. Article 20. For what reason do you rise?
Point of order. Last night we concluded on the article, the amendment to the article, and I believe it would be proper to address the main motion at the present time.
Are you asking for a reconsideration of something we did last night?
It wouldn't be a reconsideration in the fact that we voted on, the last vote we took was on the amendment, the proposed amendment to the main motion. We never acted on the main motion itself.
I believe the motion was up on the screen, and that's what we voted on.
No, you voted on the amendment, which was submitted to you.
Yes, and then we voted on the motion. The town clerk, as the record keeper, has assured me.
No. Excuse me, how was the vote taken on the main motion?
It was taken by cards again. So we did a card.
We did not have two votes.
We did have two votes. There were. We did the first one and it failed. And then we did the second one that failed by just a few.
Point of order. That's definitely not in my recollection. And I was present.
Well, the town clerk is the keeper of the records, and if she assures me that we did it properly, then we've done it properly.
You can challenge it if you want.
Article 20. Article 20 is a petition article. Mrs. Ekstrom?
Yes.
I'm sorry, is it the Saturday one or in order? I
It's
haven't got to
Article
my
20,
book.
which is your bylaw motion to the spring town meeting changed to a Saturday.
Thank you. And I apologize, I just got in here. This is an article that I've spoken to many people.
First of all, we need your motion.
I'm sorry. I move that the town amend Division 1, Article 1, Section 1 of the town's general bylaws as written in the warrant.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second before us. To speak to the article, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This article, I have been approached over the years, and I know many of you have also, to consider having town meeting on Saturdays. People who have trouble driving at night or that work and have children during the week, sometimes Saturdays are easier for them to do. Other towns have done it, and so I just thought I'd put it on the warrant to allow people to vote on it. I know that when Madam Moderator, when you first ran, this was one of the things that you had talked about considering. And I know that the last couple of times that we've had issue, that we've held them on Saturdays due to COVID, they were very well attended. So that's why I put it on here. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen, please?
The Board of Selectmen voted 1-4-0.
Could I have the vote and the recommendation of the Finance Committee, please?
Madam Moderator, the vote of the Finance Committee was 8-0-0 to refer.
Thank you. Anything further to be said on the article?
Madam Moderator.
Am I right?
Madam Moderator, may I have a point of information from the speaker, please? Could you place your article in the context of what we are experiencing these 2 days, please, the effect of it?
To answer the question, please?
Well, first of all, I have that it starts at 11 and has to be out, I think I wrote by 4, so that gives us an extra couple of hours. And then if it wasn't finished, then it would be continued to the next Saturday.
So it'll go out for 2 weeks.
On my right, please.
Tom Monahan, Precinct 4, to you, Madam Moderator, to the body. If there ever was an example of why we need to have meetings on a Saturday during the day, that example was crystal clear to me last night. 183 people were here squinting in the dark or blinded by the light. Many of them were here for a particular article. We were glad you took it out of order, but realistically, 75 of them got up at 9:45 and left the area. Many of them were seniors, many of them were exhausted, many of them are not used to the process of hanging in there. But a Saturday in the middle of the day makes so much more sense. And one of the casualties of last night was when we took the vote with 73 people less, the results on the next thing changed dramatically. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left?
Marcia Campbell, Precinct 1. I just wanted to say that I am disabled, and when they come at night in the wintertime, it is dark. And because there's not enough street lights, I can't walk. And it's unfair for the disabled or the elderly to get stuck not coming to meetings unless kind people like Leslie take me. And if it was a Saturday, I can walk and I can walk home, and I'm not that sweet, so rain doesn't bother me. But nighttime is very dangerous for people and be really great, because for years I didn't go to town meetings because I didn't have any kind people to take me. So it would benefit a lot, not just the elderly, but there's disabled of all ages, women that don't work, people that don't drive, that just don't drive. So they don't want to walk at night. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you. On my right?
Evening, Madam Moderator. Name is Jared Chadwick, East Wareham Precinct. If the intent of this article is to get the younger parents crowd out to this, I know for a fact it would not work. Reason being is on Saturdays you have multiple youth programs going on across this town and in this building. And you're looking at overpopulating the building, causing more traffic, more safety concerns. Now, if you want to go about a different route of doing it, having it at night for parents with some sort of babysitters or something in the gym for their kids, then I would fully support it. But for a Saturday, you're interfering with a lot of other things that this town has, including youth and other programs. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left?
Madam Moderator, Leslie Edwards Davis, Precinct 1. A year ago, we had a town meeting on Spillane Field, and there were 1,000 people there. And some would tell you that's because of the issue, but there have been extremely popular issues recently, including the golf course and the Deacon's School, and our numbers never got as high as that Spillane Field meeting, and it's because it was on a beautiful Saturday afternoon where people could get there during the day. They didn't have to work and deal with childcare and making dinner and rushing off to a meeting. They could go in daylight without fearing driving home at night with bad eyesight. It was our most well-attended town meeting. It was on a Saturday, and I would urge people to vote favorably on this article.
Thank you. On my left?
Diane Kenny. I noticed when people talk about this, I feel like they think in their heads it's all the time. It's 2 Saturdays a year, maybe 4, tops, and that might even be crazy. 2. I think people could plan around it and be at town meeting, and a lot more people could be there.
Thank you. On my left?
Jody Santagate. Some of you may know I'm heavily involved now with what's going on in the town in several boards, and I'm able to do that now that my children are older. When they were younger, raising them alone, I didn't have access to attend meetings at night because after I work and I get home at 5:30 picking up my children, I had to decide, do I want to go to a town meeting or even a weekly board meeting or do homework with my kids, rush dinner, et cetera, et cetera. With that being said, a Saturday for a family, in my opinion, would open up the ability for everybody in the community to participate in democracy and what's going on. It's 2 Saturdays a year. If there's youth programs going on, we could possibly ask the youth programs to put their game on later in the day or whatnot. And as far as looking around now, it's sad to see a very significant lower turnout from last night. It's very disheartening. But a lot of that is because people can't drive at night. They're tired. They start their day at 5:30 in the morning, and it's a long day, no matter how old you are. So I would urge, please, look beyond your own lives and think about everybody that's at home watching this and hoping and wishing they could be here. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right?
Howard Smith, Precinct 4. I have been coming to town meetings for over 50 years. When we were in the old town hall with the most uncomfortable chairs that you ever could imagine. When town meetings used to go 3 and 4 nights. At the time, we had 3 children. We still attended town meeting. We hired a babysitter. At the time, I worked 2 full-time jobs, but I still thought enough of this town to be able to get up, get out, and attend town meeting. And I was one of the people who stayed here last night. I wasn't one of the rude people that get up and walked out after a special interest. Thank you.
Is there anything further to be said? Mr. Slavin?
That's Bryce. Thank you. It's hard to see out there, unfortunately, because the lights coming from the projector are blinding us here. So you can see me, but I can't see any of you. The whole concept has been a question. Being a member of the Mass Municipal Association on the Board of Directors, this subject comes up 2 or 3 times a year about what's the best day to meet, et cetera, how it works. It's been split, close to 50-50. People try it both ways. It works, it doesn't. The bottom line really is when there's an article that really affects everybody, mostly usually financially or some kind of service, the turnout becomes extremely high no matter what it is. To discount the idea that the actual article that comes up doesn't affect the turnout, you can see what's happening here tonight. Last night, there was a lot of seniors here. The article was important to them. They showed up, then they went home. It's been a common, I'd say over at least the 15 years I've been involved, that when someone has a particular article, they basically, that article hits, they walk out right after that. That's one of the reasons why we have a 0 quorum. If we didn't have a 0 quorum, we probably would have no budget tonight because there would be enough people here to vote on it. So the idea of whether you're here on a Monday through Friday or a Saturday, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What really matters is what the articles are and how involved people are in it. So if you want to make a change, I think you're going to find a lot of times on a Saturday will not make any difference if it's on a Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left.
I just want, that's Jim Gibberti, Precinct 3. I just want to reiterate what Howie Smith said, and he's absolutely right. I've sat through some of those 4-day meetings, 3 days, and have to come back again. I can remember one where it even went to another week, the beginning of the week, because we couldn't finish it. We do it on a Saturday, that's going to be just a load of fun.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said? Seeing no one standing, I will call for the vote. The vote is on the motion on the screen. It's a bylaw amendment. It requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
No. It passes by, it fails.
I count.
We're going to count it. Will the tellers come forward?
Yeah, I count it.
Chair is in doubt. All those in favor, please raise your cards.
He's trying to hide from the light. Trying to hide from the light.
No, I brought glasses.
Did you?
On my right,
5.
in the center.
14,
On my left,
26,
in the front.
38.
All those opposed, please raise your cards. On my right,
7.
in the center.
18.
On my left,
36,
in the front.
52, 38, it fails. 52, 38 fails.
The vote is 38 in favor, 52 opposed. The motion fails. Article 18.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town approve Article 18 as printed in the warrant.
I have a motion and a second to speak to Article 18.
Yes, thank you. Sandy Slavin, Precinct 3. I am a member of the Affordable Housing Trust. We are requesting funds, if I believe it's 50% net of any tax-taking auction. I believe that's it. Sorry, I should have read it before I came up here. We have a small fund. We have about $130,000, which is left over from some funds we received from Walmart, funds we received from a condo development on Onset that was built under 40B, but for every market rate condo, funds came into Affordable Housing Trust. We're looking to supplement our funds so we can work on projects. We don't have a specific project in mind, but here's a hint of what might be done. Somebody comes to us to add to a dwelling on their property for affordability. And I know the bylaw does not allow affordable to be done by, to be recognized for a SHI list, but there's no reason why they can't come to the Affordable Housing Trust and for something like a $25,000 grant to support the costs, have an affordable housing restriction put on that property. We need the funds to support that. There may be property that could be turned into affordable that might have to have some legal issues like research of deed and things like that. Affordable Housing Fund Trust funds could be used to help free up a piece of land that could be bought and turned into affordable housing. There's no specific project, just that the few funds that might come off of an auction would help support activities that have yet to be defined to support affordable units in the town of Wareham. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have the report of the Board of Selectmen first, please?
Yes, the Board of Selectmen voted 2-3-0 on this one.
I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee voted to approve 6-1-0.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin?
Well, good evening again, folks. This is my first shot at trying to sleep in the garage tonight. And I probably will succeed before the night is over. I would like to ask Mrs. Slavin, what projects do you have in line at this particular point in time?
To answer the question only?
To answer the question, as I said, there is no specific project right now on the books. We are looking for funds to accommodate it should they come to us.
At this particular point here, I would suggest...
A little bit louder.
I'm trying, sorry. It's hard to see where the microphone is when the light's blinding me. Thank you. I'll try not to eat it. My concern is that we're basically taking funds, moving it over to an area where there are no projects. I would think at this time it might be best to pass this over and bring it back when they actually have some programs in place for the actual use of the money, rather than sitting as it has been for a while with nothing happening. Thank you.
Are you making that as an amendment? Could we have a copy of that in writing too, please? Thank you. We have an amendment on the floor to pass over this article.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. So the amendment will come before you. To speak to the amendment only at this time? Mrs. Slavin?
Yes. The idea of having the funds available in Affordable Housing Trust will allow us to act quickly should something come up, as opposed to waiting until another town meeting. CPA funds could be used, but we have to wait for a town meeting for approval. We want to have the funds available to react if a project becomes before us. Thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum?
No, you were first.
She was first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I right?
Thank you, Brenda Ekstrom. I would ask you to not pass over this article. As the previous speaker stated, we are prime picking for affordable housing, the big monstrosities, the 150, 140 unit ones that people seem to all hate, but no one wants to do anything about them. What the Affordable Housing Trust is trying to do is trying to address that so that 100% of what they do can be marked as affordable instead of 25%, which is the going rate on most of the houses that are built. So I beg you to please don't pass on this, vote this amendment down, and vote positive on the main article. Thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes. Despite what some people may think, I'm not opposed to affordable housing. I'm the chairman of the Wareham Redevelopment Authority, and we've got 44 senior units and 39 family affordable units going in and out of Littleton Drive. I understand the desire of people to try to work to promote small scale affordables. But here's the thing. I served on the Affordable Housing Trust for 7 years. We had 6 figures in the bank. We couldn't draw anybody to come in and spend it. It just sat there. And I'm assuming that some of this $130,000 that's still in there, it remains from those days, back in 2013, 2014, and what have you. Those monies came in through comprehensive permit fees, as I understand it, from the ZBA, and maybe there was a cash infusion from town meeting at some point. I don't know. But this is the 3rd time that the Affordable Housing Trust has requested such an article, and each time when it's come before the Board of Selectmen, I've asked to know what the programs are, because I don't think that's unreasonable. Back in June, this body voted down funds to go to a private developer for Littleton Drive for a known use, and that was to construct the community portion of it, the trails, and so on and so forth, that would have been publicly accessible to everybody.
30 seconds.
There are members of the Board of Selectmen who didn't support that. They don't like spending money on private development. I would urge the body to vote for the motion to pass over. Wait until the Affordable Housing Trust comes up with programs. It doesn't have to be somebody coming in as a developer. If they've got a way to promote affordable housing, if they want to hire an actual expert to do this, that's fine. But just let us know what it is.
Thank you. On my left?
Hi, I'm Marcia Campbell, Precinct 1. I'm not against the affordable care, anything. I've used that at a time in my life as well. But I know, and everyone here knows, there are places and things going on in Wareham right now that could use that money right now. And because you voted the Saturdays out, I could really use streetlights, that $130,000 or whatever money it is. Those things are visibly seen by everyone in Wareham, and we don't have a little pocket money for that. So I'm sorry, I can't.
Thank you. Mr. Muniz?
Jim Muniz. I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. It was a failed committee up until 4 years ago, and 2 years ago we finally got a full committee. We addressed the issue of having a supermajority for a quorum, so just have a simple majority. This is another step into making it a viable committee to carry out the mission of the committee. So you say, what do you have for plans? Well, right now we're talking with the Habitat for Humanity, who's looking to get properties possibly in the town. So we're looking at some town properties. We're waiting for a list of those. And we could also assist the people who qualified and were chosen by lottery to assist them in their down payments and their closing costs on those. These would be like working homes, people of working class and of not a lot of means, have to be under the 80% of the median incomes to be qualified. So they're looking to speak to us about that. We can't do those things without, one, having funds to assist people, two, possibly contracting out or getting a non-benefited person who's worked in the field to actually run the program.
30 seconds.
Yes, thank you. And/or contract out to a third party to run the program. You can't do it without funds. We're asking for 50% of the net revenue from tax title sale properties. These are usually taken by, can I finish this?
Mm-hmm.
These are usually taken when people have passed away intestate or could not hold the property on their own. So we'd be reinvesting that into helping other people. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left?
Leslie Edwards Davis, a question through you to the Finance Committee, Madam Moderator.
Ask your question.
I'd just like to hear more about why you supported the article. I do as well, but there's a short paragraph about why you voted 610, and I would just like to hear your thoughts.
To answer the question only?
Okay. I'll read you our recommendation if that's what you want. The Wareham Affordable Housing Trust was established by voters at the spring 2006 annual town meeting. Per trust policy, funding mechanisms are very limited. Approval of this article would provide additional revenue without reducing annual budgeted operating revenue, as the source for this article would be 50% of unbudgeted net tax revenue. The Finance Committee believes this is a financially reasonable request. That's simple, 5 sentences.
Okay, thank you.
On my left?
Just a question.
Could you state your name, please?
Ronald Bessie, Precinct 1. Currently, on any properties that are sold through tax lien auctions, where does that money currently go when the property is sold?
To answer the question only?
It's booked as a revenue, so it goes to the general fund. And then if that's surplus revenue, that's how we get free cash. So and free cash is what you use for capital items, things such as that.
Thank you.
Thank you. On my right?
Madam Moderator, Urban Russell, Precinct 6. I've been a resident of this town for some time, and I am formerly a member of the Wareham Housing Authority. There has been an ongoing effort to minimize the displacement of low-income people within this community. There has been a constant effort to try to resolve some of the displacement, because families have been displaced out of this community and had to go to Hyannis, to New Bedford, all kind of places to find affordable, livable conditions and housing. Every action that has been coming before this board in reference to affordability has been flaunted and rejected, and that's not necessary. You know, to put this allocated money that you wasn't expecting in the first place, I mean, the auction of this building and that resources was totally unexpected. To place it in the general fund, to sit there or not sit there, or to be used elsewhere, seems to be another flagrant action against the affordable housing within this community. That onslaught against the least people that are able to defend themselves. They're not here. They're not able to come here. A lot of the homeless, a lot of the people without abilities to get around. And yet this action is another action against them. And the actions that were taken previously against affordable housing within this community it's deplorable. And I think we ought to start coming around. This motion needs to be defeated, to pass over this article, and to support the article of having that available money in case affordable actions or affordable opportunities come about.
Thank you. Jody?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. 2 quick questions. Is there a mechanism in this? I heard about a down payment in projects if somebody might need some help on their rent/mortgage for a short time for whatever reason. And that's question 1. And the second question, how many tax title takings has there been in the last 3 years?
To answer the question?
I can answer the first one.
Mr. Muniz, to answer the question?
You were asking, what was?
Is there a mechanism to help say somebody with a mortgage?
There's a form that they can fill out and request funding through the Affordable Housing Trust, and we have a body, and we meet and we listen to it. We look at the revenues, and it's and if they qualify, and make a decision on that.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I believe, Mr. Foster, you want to address that?
We bring in, there's 2 different issues right now. There's tax title. You're referring to tax title. That's the list of properties that you see that we enter in the paper for liens. And tax possession sales, that's a property that we've taken through land court and taken ownership of the property and sold, and I think that's what you're referring to. So the profit, after everything's paid off, the attorney, the auctioneer, all the fees, taxes, and interest are repaid. If there is additional funds, that's what I think you're referring to. Those are the proceeds, the net proceeds from the auction. We just had one recently. It was a house. We did well. We got everything back. And the proceeds from that went to the general fund was $72,000. They'll vary from house to house, but all those auctions that you see when you notice a tax possession sale in the newspaper, and it's every other year, we'll have a couple houses or a couple pieces of land, some property. Those are tax possession sales, and that's what you're talking about, the net proceeds from that. Tax title, we bring in an average. Those are the properties that are redeemed by the taxpayers. We don't take ownership of those. They do pay taxes, fees, and interest to the town. That's about $650,000 a year.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Mr. Smith?
Yes,
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said?
Yes, Sandy Slavin, just to clarify something, the tax title is not what we're looking for. We're looking at the sharing 50% of the net of an auction sale. That property on Apple Street netted 70, so we're looking at 35,000 being 50% to be given to the Affordable Housing Trust to manage. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 18? Seeing no one standing, I'm now going to call for the vote on the motion made by Mr. Slavin, which is to pass over Article 18. All those in favor of Mr. Slavin's motion to pass over Article 18, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The motion fails. We are now back to the main motion that's before you in the main question, which is up on the screen. So the vote now will come on the motion that's before you on the screen. It requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. It passes by a majority. Did you say 13? Article 13. May I have a motion?
Madam Moderator.
13.
Oh. I move that the town approve Article 13 as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
To speak to the article?
Madam Moderator, I move to amend Article number 13, the 801 Village, to increase the number of units from 6 to 7 and increase the affordable deed restriction from 40 years to in perpetuity.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and I actually have a copy that was sent to me to speak to your article.
Thank you. Nanette Perkins, who is the property manager, this is Joan Kinneberg, Community Preservation Committee. Nanette Perkins, who is the property manager and the affordable housing specialist from the 801 Village, was here last evening to present this presentation, but unfortunately had a conflict and couldn't be here tonight. So I hope you'll bear with me as I walk you through her slides. The 801 Village is adding 7 new affordable housing units for Wareham. It's the same development team and the same management team as the Village at 815 Main, which is located adjacent to the property that will become the proposed 801 Village. And the rest of these bullet points I'm going to go through in detail with you in the presentation. So next slide, please. Let's talk about the funding sources. As most of you know, if you've been building a house or if you've renovated a house or if you're in the building trades, you know that prices have skyrocketed. From the time that this application was submitted a couple of months ago, this project has gone from $2.8 million to almost $3.6 million. I can tell you that the developer is absorbing the extra costs. So the developer will take out extra mortgages and loans to cover all of the increases. and the request for community preservation funds will remain at $300,000, which is 8% of the total, and all of the other grant sources will remain the same. And as you know, from a CPC perspective, affordable housing is an approved category for the use of CPA funds. And many of the funds that are up here that are federal or state, or even a lot of the foundation grants that are available, look to the municipality for support. And the way that we support affordable housing in Wareham is through a Community Preservation Act grant. And this grant that's requested is in the amount of $300,000. Next slide, please. These are the proposed units. And I'll show you the plot plan in just a moment. But there is a barn that is currently on the property, and that is the picture to the left of this screen. The barn will be renovated into 2 units. There'll be 2 one-bedroom units, one on the 2nd floor, and then the 1st floor unit will be a 1-bedroom unit that will be ADA compliant. It will be fully handicap accessible. The unit on the top picture is a ranch-style unit, and that is a 1-bedroom unit, which is also ADA compliant, fully handicap accessible. And then the picture to the right, there will be 2 of those townhouse buildings. And each townhouse building will contain a 3-bedroom affordable housing unit attached to a 2-bedroom affordable housing unit. So in total, there will be 7 units, 3 1-bedroom, 2 2-bedroom, and 2 3-bedroom. And 2 of those 7 units, so 30% of them, will be handicap accessible. The entire project will be 3 new buildings plus the barn renovation. Next slide, please. This is what the plot plan looks like for 801 Main, and as you can see, it's adjacent to the village at 815 Main. There is an existing house on the property, so you can see the little orange square to the bottom right. That's a picture of the house to the right-hand side. The house has been fully renovated and is being rented out as an affordable 3-bedroom unit right now. So while it is sitting on the property, it is already being rented as affordable housing, so it is not part of this project. What is part of this project are the aqua color and the purple and navy buildings. The barn is located right next to the White House, and there's a picture of the barn in the lower left corner. That will be renovated into 2 one-bedroom units, one of them being handicap accessible on the 1st floor. The other 1-bedroom unit is the aqua color rectangle in the middle, and that is the ranch-style home that is handicap accessible. The purple and the navy blocks are the 2 townhouse buildings, and those are the 3-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. And then the gray strip to the left is the parking for those units. Next slide, please. So why should you support this project? Well, we all know that Wareham has a quota to meet for the state for affordable housing, and this will contribute 7 affordable housing units, 2 of them handicap accessible, for our community. And there is a need for affordable housing in Wareham. And just as an aside, I'll tell you, I spent on 3 occasions time in the office at 815 Main Street. And while I was there, the phone never stopped ringing with
Mrs.
inquiries.
Kinnebog, do you have time?
May I have one more moment, Madam Moderator?
Yes.
The phone never stopped ringing with inquiries for affordable housing. And I asked how many applications were in place. As of last week, there were 62 applications for these units, and the majority of the applications were from Wareham residents. A public lottery will be held, as is required, but Wareham residents will be given priority. They'll be given a local preference priority. This is a neighborhood and community feel. It's a small development, and it maintains the character that we want to see in Wareham. It's supported by the Wareham Chief of Police in a letter of recommendation. As I mentioned, there are ADA compliant units. The goal is to occupy in the winter of 2023, and all units will remain in as affordable housing in perpetuity, and that was a request from the Board of Selectmen The company went back to the table and discussed it.
You need to wrap it up.
Rather than 40 years, it will be in perpetuity. Just to say, there is, in FY23, there will be $550,000 in the affordable housing reserve. There's more than enough money to support this $300,000 project. And in addition,
Mrs. Kinnenberg, you need to wrap it up. I've given you some extra time, but...
Thank you. And there's $5 million in our CPA funds, so there's enough money to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen voted 2-2 to recommend.
I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee voted 4-3-1 in favor. Based on all the things that you've just heard, in particular, we were impressed with the endorsement of the Chief of Police of this project. It's a project that has been, it's the same management as 815, which has gone, as far as we can tell, very well. And for that reason, even though this is a fairly significant contribution to a private developer's project, it's still less than 10%, and it's an appropriate use of the funds.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin?
Good evening again. Alan Slavin, Precinct 3. I forgot to do that. I'm supposed to do that. As everybody knows, if they've been coming to town meetings, when we have a CPA grant request coming to us, and if it's a for-profit company, I have stood up each time and said, no, we should not be supporting someone who has basically getting at least a 20% profit, which is the way this all works. We rejected Dakota Partners. We rejected recently Littleton Drive, and this is the same thing. There's nothing wrong with the projects. The bottom line is they are going to make money on this. There is no reason to use our CPA funds to help out because both Dakota Partners and Littleton Drive are proceeding. One of them asked for $800,000. It didn't stop them at all from developing this, and it certainly is not going to stop 801 from actually going through and doing it. I ask you basically to vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Good evening, Madam Moderator. My name is April Rossi, and I live in the village that is adjacent to this property. And I just wanted to speak to definitely the need for affordable housing and to how well-run the village is. A lot of people who live in Wareham don't even know that it's there. It's off the beaten path. There isn't a large footprint available from the street. So people's concerns that a big development would take away from the aesthetic of West Wareham and sort of the woodsy feel, you don't feel that there at all. The neighborhood is primarily composed of young families and elderly people. There's very low drama. You don't see a lot of police log calls. On the occasion, sadly, we have some medical due to some of the residents, but that's not a lot of drama, in my opinion. It's been an amazing place to raise my son. I've lived in the village for 10 years. The development was built initially in 2010, and I moved there in 2012. The property adjacent, where the home was just recently purchased, was completely renovated, and they kept I believe it was sometime in the 1800s that house was built, and you'd never know that there were any renovations done. They kept the entire integrity of that house. And because the property is the house that is on, it looks like they made those renderings to mirror the aesthetic of that house to keep with that old New England style home. And I know that as a town, we need to be, or we hope to be, at a 10%.
30 seconds.
Thank you. A 10% 40B or affordable housing to limit future larger developers from coming in. This is 7 units on an existing property that has treated the residents of this town well, for students, for the seniors, and I think it would be a great addition to the town for 7 more affordable guaranteed units. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yeah, I fully support this project. This is exactly the kind of small-scale development that we should see in the affordable housing arena. And I was somebody who supported Littleton Drive because to me it was a chance to leverage a town asset in the form of a failed subdivision that has sat there for 40 years. That was a unique circumstance. My preference is to see the smaller projects go in. They tend to not create as much in terms of traffic issues. They're not as obtrusive. They don't overshadow neighborhoods in the same way that you see down with Woodland Cove. And so I think we need to support this. And, you know, to the point about using public money to support private enterprise, you know, this is the system that DHCD and the state legislature and even the governor's administration have kind of forced upon us. They look to see municipal support for projects. This assists the applicants with their funding for state tax credits, which are what really drive the profitability for them of the projects. As the chairman of the Community Preservation Committee told you, you've got $500,000 sitting in the coffers. You've also got an appropriation out there from a few years ago of $640,000 for units at the Wareham Housing Authority, and because the article specified how many units, which is 4, I mean, I'd love to invest in something where I could build 4 units for $640,000 and double my money the next day, because that's just not feasible anymore. So the town keeps collecting this money, and we keep not using it. And, you know, we have to set aside 10%. We don't have a choice. You get a nice project like this, then I think we have to maybe drop our disdain for public funding of for-profit projects and try to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that Dominic?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Could I sit because of the light, and could I also ask for the gentleman to put the slide up of the pie chart, please?
Oh, the one that Mrs. Kittenbog had?
Yes.
You have a question on it?
Yeah, well, I want to talk about it.
Matt, could you bring up the slide that Dominic is referring to?
It was the pie chart.
Yeah.
There it
pie
is.
chart.
Okay. Now, if you look at this pie chart.
You need to speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry.
I know
I'm going to sit because of the
yeah.
light. The gentleman's putting up, you know, not a lot of money, okay? No, this is a personal profit type of thing. We're investing $300,000 to make someone else money, and he's only building 7 units. I mean, I believe that the CPC money should be used not for profit, okay? If you want to make, you know, CPC would like to give me some money, I'd love to make money, and I'll give you all the units you want. I just believe that giving CPC funds for private enterprise to make a profit is wrong. And if you can see all the loans that this gentleman's getting and putting in his own personal money, it's very little. That's all I got to say. Thank you. I would turn this down.
Thank you. Am I right?
Annie Hayes, Precinct 5. I think this is a wonderful project and a project that has enlisted different groups of people. In the effort to redevelop downtown, I think the architecture is a real asset to the town. And I'm also very glad, I grew up in a home with beautiful architectural features. The gables, all of the features of this project are wonderful, and it's a delight to see affordable units in these houses. I think everybody benefits from seeing the home and also from living in it. It shouldn't be discriminating economically to live in a beautiful home. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left?
Thank you, Sandy Slavin. I am the treasurer of CPC, and I do totally support this. $300,000 is not a lot of money in order to obtain 7 affordable housing units, even if it is a for-profit. I don't see a nonprofit coming in and giving us 7 units like this is. And just as a note, these are all module units, so the disruption for the neighborhood will be limited because there will not be the major digging and building and pounding that you get with a normal home going in. But please support this article. $300,000, CPC has the money, would love to spend it on affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said? Seeing no one standing, I will now call for the vote. The motion before you is not what was on the screen. The motion before you, and I'll read it just so that you know what we're voting on, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve Funds or any other available monies in the Community Preservation Act Fund under the category of affordable housing a grant to Villages 801 Main Street LLC with a business location of 813 Main Street, Building 2, Wareham, Mass. 02571, a grant for the sum of $300,000 to construct 7 affordable housing units and obtain an affordable housing deed restriction into perpetuity on the land and structures at 801 Main Street, Wareham. That's the motion before you. It requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Passes by a majority. Article 7.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from levies, state, and local receipts the sum of $63,208,112 and transfer $863,766 from the Water Pollution Control Enterprise Fund to fund the FY23 budget as presented in the administration handout.
I have a second. I have a motion and a second to speak to the article.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be part of town meeting, night 2. Tonight, action will be taken on the budget, and the handout that you have in front of you, which is the administration handout, has on pages 4, 5, and 6, so through 7, the budget. This is what has also been on the town website under the announcements for the budget presentation and the backup. And then later on, when the moderator calls for her vote, you can follow along on pages 8 through 10. That is the exact way the moderator will call for the vote. I want to provide some of the highlights from the budget, which is this budget contains funding for a full-time Council on Aging director. The Wareham Free Library continues to be funded at a level that keeps the library certified and brings a part-time employee into the general fund budget. The Wareham Police Department budget creates a new patrol officer position by reallocating the funding traditionally used for seasonal officers. I know that's been a big topic of what's happened with the seasonal officers. One of the things, I believe we currently have 3 open spots as well. One of the things we need to consider going forward, and is something I think we're going to have to bargain and bring forward to probably the October town meeting, I hope, is the idea of leaving civil service for our police department. It's something that's run its course. We're having, right now when you're hiring off of a list that they give you. We need to be able to, we're not getting laterals, so what we're doing is hiring new people off that list. We're paying for them to go through the academy and be trained. It holds up the process. Chief, how many academies are held a year? 2 if we're lucky. I know we had some shut down, and there's only so many spots. So that's one of the things to consider, that a lot of times when you have a retirement or you have something, you're not getting the lateral transfers in, and you're going through a long process, because after the academy, it's about 6 months. Then you have additional training thereafter for can be up to 12 weeks, I believe. So that's leaving a space open for when you look at 9 months. And that's depending on when the academy's held. So that's something we really need to look into and consider. It is a collective bargaining issue as well, so that's something to be considered. But, so excuse me, I went off a little bit on that. The municipal maintenance has 1 new labor position, and the MS4, which is basically that's part of our catch basins. I don't know if anybody knows, we have roughly 3,300 catch basins in the town. And according to the EPA guidelines, every 2 years they need to be cleaned. We're now catching up with this so we can do every year between our staffing and hiring private contractors. And some of those catch basins, if they're in certain areas that might get sand and debris runoff, they might have to be cleaned multiple times during the year. So That's one of the big highlights. Tuition assessments continue to climb by $676,250, but the first time the Commonwealth has begun to pay more towards the required reimbursement amount, which is why you see a $514,085 increase in charter school aid. Thanks to the hard work and trainings from the human resources staff, our workers' compensation rates have drastically reduced, and the premium has been reduced by almost $200,000. The move to become part of the Mayflower Municipal Health Group is continuing to pay dividends, as the FY23 rates are increasing by only 3%. Lastly, a big change is the Upper Cape Cod Technical School assessment, which you voted last night. It's being lowered by $427,840. The one thing you need to consider, that's based on student enrollment, so that can change from any given year. There's been years in the past where we've had an increase of almost that amount. So, but that's what's gone into funding this year's budget. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the meetings where it's presented to the Finance Committee. We went over it with the Board of Selectmen, and again, the charts have been on the town website. So I want to give you an overall highlight of the budget, and thank you for your time and efforts on behalf of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen voted 4-1-0 to recommend.
May I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee voted 6-0-0 to recommend. And moderator, if I may make a statement, the fact that we are using the administration handout, we have to go to print 2 weeks before the initial town meeting, and in the interim, there's still negotiations going on with the various budgets, so there are some line items that don't match what the administration has presented and the correct ones we're going to use. But your booklet is 75% accurate. I had to say that, Madam Moderator.
You really want to make my night. Last night. So how we do the budget at town meeting, and I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Does everybody have a handout? The administrative handout? I will read through them line by line, and if you have a question on any of them, please say hold. Once we go through all of these, we will then take a vote on all of the ones that have not been held. And then we will come back to the ones that have asked to be held. And you can ask a question, we can discuss it, and then we take a vote on those, and then at the very end, we take a vote on the total of the budget. Does everybody understand what we're doing? Okay. So the first one is town meetings, wages, and expenses. Selectmen's wages and expenses. Town administrator wages and expenses. Finance committee expenses. Reserve fund. Town accountant wages and expenses. Audit. Assessors wages and expenses. Treasurer wages and expenses. General services wages and expenses. Legal services. Personnel services wages and expenses. Information management technology wages and expenses. Information management technology communications. Town clerk wages and expenses. Elections and registrations wages and expenses. Planning and community development wages and expenses. On page 9, sick bonus wages, police wages and expenses and capital, inspectional services wages and expenses, Division of Natural Resources wages and expenses, municipal maintenance and public buildings wages and expenses, snow and ice wages and expenses, street lights general Board of Health, wages and expenses. Council on Aging, wages and expenses. Commission on Disabilities. Veterans Council. Library, wages and expenses. Historical District Commission. Historical Committee. Education. Schools, net school spending, non-net school spending. The fixed costs, debt exclusions, new school principal, new school debt interest, debt exclusion, new school debt, short-term interest, debt principal, debt interest, long-term, debt interest, short-term. Page 10, other costs, veterans assessments, Serpent assessment, employee benefits, pension, retirement contribution, LIUNA, workers' comp, town insurance, general and professional liability, medical insurance, life insurance, FICA and Medicare. I believe that's it for the budget. We had no holes, so I believe we can vote on the motion is on the screen. Is that correct? No. We had no holds? So what's coming before you is the motion that is before you on the screen to appropriate, I hope I have the same one because I can't see it from the side, $63,208,112 and transfer $863,766 from Water Pollution Control Enterprise Fund. It requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Madam Moderator? I wanted to get up to speak to the article.
You didn't, there were no holds.
I didn't hold any line. I want to speak to the article.
I was very clear that we would go through, and if you had a question.
I don't have a question on any of the lines. I want to make a call. I'd like to speak to the article.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I am very disturbed to see again and again and again the sewer users of this town being siphoned, the money being siphoned off the sewer to be put into the general fund. $863,000 that we are paying for sewer that is going into the general fund to pay for 10 and 20% raises. Believe me, I know we need extra police officers. I know we need extra people in municipal maintenance. We sure as heck need council on aging in the library. But when we're deciding that paying people more than the governor makes to run our town, I think that something should be done about it, and I think it's a disgrace that we keep skimming off the sewer users because there's less of them in the town than non-users. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Moderator, a question, please. In the booklet that I have, the administration, the total operating budget is different than which is shown on the screen. The total is $64,071,878.
If you add those together.
I believe it, as
I'm sorry, my apologies.
Okay, are you all set, Mr. Pigeon?
Yes.
Okay. So I will now call for the vote on the budget. It is before you as a motion on the screen. Requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Passes by a majority. We did 23. That was the steering committee. Eight. Article 8.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve the amount of $1,348,000 to the Emergency Medical Services Salary and Wages Account, $283,418 to the EMS General Expense Account, and further to authorize a sum of money in estimated receipts of the Emergency Medical Services account to be used to offset appropriation in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to speak to the article.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. As you know, we had what you'd call a COVID blip last year with our funding for the EMS. This year, when we're right now projecting out the revenue and expenses, so it looks like they would finish with plus $226,000. So it doesn't look, we would not have to worry about a deficit. This budget has been sent to the Department of Revenue ahead of time as well because of last year's deficit, and they have okayed us with moving forward on this vote. So.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen voted 5-0-0 to recommend.
May I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee? Is there anything further to be said on Article 8? Seeing no one standing, I will now call for the vote. The motion is before you on the screen for the medical services budget. It requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 15.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town appropriate the sum of $3 million to pay costs of a capital improvement project to abandon the failed gravity system, replacing it with a closed system with grinder pumps on Wankinko Ave, Murphy Street, Columbia Street, Barn Street, Pleasant Street, and Bayview Ave, including the payment of all costs, incidentals, and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7.1, Section 814, or pursuant to any other enabling authority. All or any portion of the borrowing authorized by this vote may be obtained through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust establishment pursuant to General Law, Chapter 29C.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to speak to the article. Slavin?
Thank you, Sandy Slavin, Sewer Commissioner Clerk. I'm here to ask for support of this $3 million capital improvement project. We have to do something down at Swiss Beach. Our sewer lines are 17 to 18 feet below the surface, and they're just in water all the time. We have to better handle the inflow from these homes so that we can treat things that need treating as opposed to treating fresh water, which adds to the cost. I'll be happy to answer any question, but I'm just asking for your support to improve the sewer lines down at Swiss Beach as they go to the Ruggles pump station.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen voted 5-0-0.
May I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends this Article 800.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said, gentlemen, on my right?
Howard Smith, Precinct 4. A kind of question, did we not spend quite a few $1,000s just within the last few years to reline all of those pipes?
To answer the question only?
To answer the question, yes, there was some relining of those pipes done, but what happened was that some pump went off and interfered with the there's the word I'm looking for. It interfered with the lining that was placed in. But what happens, we find that if we took a look at the cost of lining all these pumps, we're still 17 feet below the surface, and we have got to bring them higher and so they don't sit in the water. It just didn't do what we had hoped to do, and this is what we believe is our solution to our problem down at Swiss Beach.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Slavin?
Alan Slavin, Precinct 3. This will definitely finish off my shop to the garage tonight. Thank you. Mrs. Slavin, question. We know that in the last repair of the Swiss Beach area, because a large amount of sump pumps in a certain section there, that it destroyed $300,000 or more of work. Do you, with this particular project going forward, have a remedy for the sump pumps? Or are we going to run into the same problem that's been there consistently for years? Thank you.
To answer the question?
To answer the question, what this will do is will no longer allow the sump pumps to dump into the sewer lines. These homeowners are going to have to find another solution to their sump pump discharge. Is that answering your question, sir?
He said no.
I heard, I'm still standing. What didn't I?
I love it. Just love it.
The daytime, actually we're in nighttime now. That's not a sufficient enough answer, because basically the question is...
You need to speak up, Mr. Slavin.
The question is really, are we going to be able to solve the issue, or this is just going to be a continuing, ongoing issue? To say you're going to tell the people you can't use a sump pump has never worked in all these years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what happened is that once this solid system is in place, they will not be able to use a sump pump. It will put such a pressure into their grinder systems that the grinder system will fail, and the alarm will go off, and the sewer department will have to answer why the alarm. There must be a solution to the sump pumps, and it's not dumping it down the sewer, and it's not dumping it down the stormwater drains. There are options available, and that means might very well have to pump them out in the yard. Yes, it will cycle back into their cellar, but it can't keep going down the sewer lines.
Madam Moderator, if I may,
make sure that we actually repair
answer Mr.
the
Slavin.
Just a minute. I believe Mr. Campina probably is rising to answer the question.
I'd rather have Guy answer. Yes, thank you.
Yes. And I think you can maybe help alleviate the sleeping in the garage by answering.
I'm hoping to. I can't make any promises. I think the question he's asking is, are we going to continue with sump pump problems? And I think everybody's aware that sump pump issues are major in the town of Wareham. What we're trying to accomplish is with the grinder pumps is to create a closed system that the sewer is going to enter into from the home and be pumped down the road. Some pumps pump a lot more flow and gallon and pressure than that pump that's leaving that chamber is allowed to do. So two things will happen. One, it'll either back up into the home or the alarm will go off, and we will come down and service it and address the sump pump at that point in time. It'll be a cost for the homeowner for us to come out, and so every time that alarm goes off, we will charge them to show up on site. So the goal is that they just finally say that I'm not going to keep paying for water. It's a major issue. It takes up quite a bit of our capacity. For every inch of rain, we see 300,000 to 500,000 gallons per day of I&I. Infiltration from the pipes that are very deep and leaking. They are asbestos pipes that have been in the ground since 1978, and we actually priced out digging them up and replacing them with the new modern plastic pipes, but the cost was prohibitive because of the dewatering and the shoring. So this is the best solution for any coastal area in the town of Wareham. It's going to save us, we're hoping, capacity, because we do have that issue. So sump pumps, this is our goal, to attack sump pumps today, tomorrow, and we're hoping to continue this as a model for the entire town so we can attack all the issues throughout the town of Wareham.
Okay, Mr. Campina, just to answer his question, does that answer your question, Mr. Slavin?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Muniz?
This is a $3 million investment, and I believe another one will be coming up for the same amount. Just for clarification, The payment of this will come out of the water pollution control funds, enterprise funds, I believe, is a question one. And question two, will there be an increased cost on the EDU per household to cover the cost of this moving into the future? Thank you.
To answer the two questions, if somebody chooses to, Mr. Campina.
To answer the question, presently we'll pay for this project out of our budget and the next project out of our budget. Going in the future, I can't make any promises. We do have a 15% increase that you will see next year. There's a lot of work to be done. It's all costly. So our goal is to hold rates down, but the reality is we have to spend some money.
Thank you.
Is it good?
Thank you. Did it answer your question?
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 15? I just wanted to, this is a borrowing, correct? I can't see it from the side. It's a borrowing, okay. So this is an borrowing article. It does require a 2/3 vote. I will try for unanimous. I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It passes 2/3 unanimously. Article 17.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town appropriate the sum of $3 million to pay costs of a capital improvement project to line the force main sewer line from the Narrows Pump Station to the WPCF for a distance of 1.9 give or take miles, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7.1, Section 8.14, or pursuant to any other enabling authority. All or any portion of the borrowing authorized by this vote may be obtained through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust establishment pursuant to General Law, Chapter 29C.
Have a second? Just so that you understand, the WPCF is the Water Pollution Control Facility. I just wanted to let you know, sometimes using just letters, people don't understand them. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen voted 5-0-0 to support this article.
And the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted to recommend this article 8-0-0.
Thank you. Anything further to be said on the question? Gentleman coming down on my right.
Howard Smith, Precinct 4. We were told earlier that the lines that were previously done had a thin lining. So if we're going to do this on a forced main, which is going to require much more pressure and wear, I certainly hope we do not contact the same company and go with a low bid. Let's get the job done right the first time.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on the article? Seeing no one else standing? Am I right?
That's me.
Madam Chair, Guy Campina, Sewer Director. We are going to use a lining which is pretty unique. It's out of Germany. Our original proposal was to replace the line at $7 million, and we found ourselves substantial savings. It's a 5-year warranty. It's Kevlar with a rubber lining. So we're not using the same particular product we used in Swiss Beach. The sewer line there, or the force main, as everybody probably knows, that's been around for quite some time. It's been there since 1972. In 2017, we had it tested. We had a company come in from Canada, and they did electrical bracelets, if you will, and we checked the thickness of the walls, and we found it to be between 40 and 70% deteriorated. So the decision was made to do something. We had 5 years to do it per the engineers, and this is the best solution, the best cost, and Madam Moderator, we just don't want another experience that other communities, Nantucket, Plymouth, has had, that when you have a break, on a forced main that's the main feed to our pump station. It could be catastrophic. It could bankrupt the enterprise and, of course, get into the taxpayers' dollars. So our goal is to stop that, and this project is very important. I urge that you support it.
Thank you. On my left?
Could I ask for the finance report to be read, what their recommendation was, please?
Mr.
What you wrote in addition to the article itself in the your summation.
You're looking for the recommendation written in the town warrant, is that correct?
I can barely hear you.
You're looking for the FinCom report that's written in the warrant?
Well, you explained it as well as anybody can, because you cited what the engineering report was and the percentage of the possible failure.
As written in the warrant, the committee recommendation is the Wareham Pollution Control Facility is asking for $3 million to replace the forced main along the Narrows. 6 years ago, this line was tested and evaluated by a third-party company, and at the highest point by Wareham Elementary, it was found to be 47 to 97% deteriorated, and 18 to 48% deteriorated at the lowest point by the Narrows pump station. The recommendation at that time was to replace it within 5 years. The decision was made to utilize a special form of slip lining that will be pulled through the length of the main with a life expectancy of 50 to 100 years. This option was the most affordable, with an estimated $5 million saving over a full replacement. This is necessary as the pipe is reaching the point of critical failure, and if ignored will lead to greater problems.
Thank you. That says it as well as I can, but I just wanted to add that we saw what happened in Plymouth recently, and it bankrupted their enterprise fund, and it's going to cost the town taxpayers millions. I want to remind everyone that this pump station serves Wareham all the way up the police station, Rosebrook, the industrial plaza, Wareham Crossing, over to Toby, the Deacon's School, down Hathaway. It picks up Briarwood, Cremesett, Swifts Beach, all the way back downtown, the high school, the hospital, continues on down Minot Avenue, picks up Parkwood Beach. If this fails, we are in a world of trouble. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 17? Seeing no one standing, I will now call for a vote. Again, this is a borrowing. The motion is before you on the screen. This is what you're voting on. I'm going to try for unanimous. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It passes by a 2/3 vote unanimously. Article 3. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Moderator, move that the town vote pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108, to set compensation of certain elected officials as follows. Town clerk, $95,000. Registrar, $700. Town moderator, $120 per diem.
Do I have a second? Second. Just for the record, normally I would step down for this article. However, this is the FY23 budget. Doesn't affect me at all. I have no financial interest because I will no longer be your moderator. So I do not need to step down, just in case anyone has a question on that. To speak to the article?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. That's the annual funding, and we have that in the budget.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said? On my right?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Brenda Ekstrom. I'd like to know how much did the town clerk receive last year? I went to look it up, and there was only a sum of money in the warrant again, so there wasn't an amount. I know in 2021, she was at, I think it was $82,000, so this would be from 2021, this would be an 18% increase.
To answer the question?
Yeah, I believe it was, I thought it was 85,000 that had been for
Last
this,
year?
For this current fiscal year.
So we're bringing it up 10,000, so it's going to be a 13, 14% increase.
I don't know the percentages, but 10,000.
Okay, I would like to amend the motion to bring the clerk's pay to, it was 85 last time, to 88,000.
Do I have that in writing?
Yep.
Do I have a second? Have a motion and a second to amend the town clerk's pay to 88,000. Is there anything to be said on the amendment? I see no one standing.
He took a while.
Mr.
I
Slavin?
apologize. I had a couple of wires taken away back this morning, so I'm still recovering from that one. Again, Alan Slavin, Precinct 3. The clerk's salaries, as a lot of salaries in municipalities in the last year or 2 years, have substantially increased. Town administrators all the way down the line. The dollar amount that the dollar amount they're asking for at 95 is in line with probably at least 15 other communities that I quickly checked in the area that have the same similar population and the same basis. So this money that we have is only bringing them up into the range of what's available as it is as of today. And I think our former clerk actually was substantially higher than that before she retired as well. Thank you.
How much time does Mrs. Exton have? You have 42 seconds left.
I'm sorry, Mr. Curry was up first.
I'm sorry, on my left?
Oh, yeah, Steve Curry, Rose Point, Precinct 5. I just went to the prior speaker that studies have been done with elected officials that pretty much the salary that's listed for the clerk is on an average of other communities. From other communities, I did some research. Actually, our clerk is getting less than some of the surrounding towns. So the salary that's listed in the warrant at $95,000, I believe, is appropriate for her talent and her experience in the job. I think also the previous speaker had mentioned before her election 3 years ago, the prior clerk was, with the same amount of experience, making more. So I believe her salary for the clerk is in line with other communities and should be left at the 95. So I ask you to defeat the motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
The previous clerk worked 20 years and was at 82,000 when she left. So that's inaccurate. I'd like to know the other towns. And when you're trying to compare towns, Bourne just put out an assistant town administrator position that would pay up to $100,000.
We're not talking about town administrator. Please stick to the.
They brought up
motion
other
before you.
ones. They brought up other elected ones. I'm just using it as an example. They brought up assistant town administrator. They're paying up to $100,000. I believe ours, the selectmen just approved somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000.
15 seconds.
Our town administrator, comparable towns, 130 to 150. Ours is 204. I think we're paying too much on all of them, and this is the only one that we have a say in.
Time. Mrs. Whiteside?
Thank you. I did the same research, I believe, that other people did. Middleborough pays $103,000, and it has the same population of 23,035 people. I did a survey of other towns with the population from 18,000 to 28,000, and whether they were elected or appointed. I averaged those 23 communities, the salaries, and came up with $89,000 and change. The clerk handled the largest presidential election in anybody's memory, and probably one of the most contentious. I believe that bringing the clerk into line with the other paid department heads in this town is appropriate.
Thank you. On my left?
Jody Santagate. In thinking about this, if we're going to be comparing salaries to other towns, and we should be comparing, are they, other departments, are they staffed equally, or are they as short-staffed as we are? If we are financially strapped in other departments, police, even the school, whether they're deserving or not, nothing personal, but should we be increasing wages if we're already strapped for cash as it is? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on the motion, the amendment? We have before you Mrs. Ekstrom's amendment to reduce the clerk's salary to $88,000. Requires majority vote. Once we take the vote on the amendment, depending on the outcome, it becomes the main motion, or we go back to the original. All those in favor of Mrs. Ekstrom's amendment for $88,000, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The amendment fails. We now are back to the original motion that is before you on the screen. Anything further to be said before I call for a vote? Seeing no one standing, I will call for a vote. Requires majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. It passes by a majority. Number 19. Number 19, I believe, is a petition article.
Yes, it is.
Mrs. Hayes? May I have your motion,
Annie
please?
Hayes, Precinct 5. Article 19, Large-Scale Photovoltaic Installation Moratorium. I move that the town vote to enact a temporary moratorium on large-scale ground-mounted photovoltaic installations and large-scale ground-mounted solar energy installations and large-scale ground-mounted solar energy systems defined as a solar photovoltaic system that is structurally mounted on the ground and has a minimum nameplate capacity of 250 kilowatt DC. The temporary moratorium expires April 25th, 2023.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second. To speak to your article?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Large-scale ground-mounted solar development is an important at an important juncture. The planet is burning. Climate inaction could cost $2 trillion annually. Governor Baker has doubled solar megawatt production and the subsidies we pay for. Time left to stabilize carbon dioxide emissions is a narrow window that is closing according to the recent International Panel on Climate Change report. Simultaneously, UN Secretary Gutierrez declares this the decade to restore the natural world. The natural world can't keep up with human destruction. The natural world is losing its resilience, its ability to renew itself. Considering that forests store more carbon dioxide than the entire atmosphere, the role of forests is critical. We know that in Wareham, our beautiful, rare forest-to-sea home is carved out for solar with forest life destruction and sand mining that threatens our air and water purity in rivers and wells and in our sole source aquifer. Solar treatment threatens native culture, heritage, wildlife survival, and connected lands that can support and protect species. Our neighborhood forests become solar utilities even when we are zoned low-density residential R130, R60. We're even sandwiched between two solar projects. Why do we let subsidized developers determine our life's health, safety, and welfare? And these three are the only reasons the state allows to reasonably regulate or prohibit large-scale solar. So we have to use them. In June 2021, Wareham voters unanimously passed Nancy McHale's bylaw that capped solar at 10 acres.
People were jubilant. But bylaws require Attorney General approval, denied this March, reinstating Bylaw 2014. Bylaw 2014 permitted 19 solar projects between 5 to 75 acres, then grandfathered in 1,400 acres more for large-scale ground-mounted solar systems this past year. Active now, 2014 is weak pro-solar development on forested land with developers ready to sue. Before 2014, there were 1 million watts of large ground-mounted solar. Today, 125 million watts exist on stripped and mined land where forests lived in Wareham. The Solar Committee's Bylaw S15 2022 is vastly better. Submitted before the AG struck down 2021, however, it may have similar flaws and fail. Bylaw language that substantiates public health, safety, and welfare, taking precedence over state solar development goals, is critical, and the AG reviews solar bylaws as if in court. Additionally, the Supreme Judicial Court will rule in August on a case that may determine if municipal zoning for solar is even allowed. S1 has one shot to become law and hold back 2014. It must pass the Attorney General review. If Article 19 is passed tonight, the solar moratorium freeze creates 3 shots to lock up 2014 and continue the process of writing the best solar bylaw for Wareham. If both fail, 2014 remains law. That is, if they both fail at the Attorney General level. Infrequent as they are, moratoriums are approved by the Attorney General with legal precedent as a town's serious request for greater consideration of an important municipal issue within a limited time span. The moratorium allows Wareham to stop permitting large-scale ground-mounted solar over 250 kilowatts to breathe. Using the Solar Committee's work, the town would continue to review, research, and study for a more legally substantive and protective bylaw. A study example, S15, the one
30 seconds.
S15 allows up to 5 megawatts of solar in forested residential zones, whereas Acton's current bylaw prohibits deforestation except for 1 acre per project. Madam Chair, may I have 2 more minutes?
Well, you have about 15 seconds. If you could wrap it up quickly. I'd like to get done with town meeting. We have about 4 more articles, so I'd like to try to finish up.
Last few sentences. Our priority must be knowledge that our survival is linked to the natural world, always has been. We each are responsible to stop what destroys and enhance what protects, conserves, and ensures all species a livable planet. Our job is to build our large-scale solar bylaws using words like bricks to substantiate the health, safety, and welfare of the natural world, which is us. Please vote yes for Article 19.
Thank you. Could I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen, please?
The Board of Selectmen voted 1-4-0.
Can I have the vote and recommendation of the Finance Committee, please?
The Finance Committee approved this Article 7-1-0.
Thank you. I have a report from the Planning Board.
Michael King on behalf of the Wareham Planning Board. Madam Moderator, through you to the body. The Board feels that the additional time to review the bylaw and hold back any new projects is a reasonable approach as well. Consequently, the Board voted 3-2-0 to recommend.
Thank you. To speak to the article on my left.
I'm the left. Sorry, I don't know left from right. My name is Denise Wolk. I'm a resident of Wareham. I was also a part of the Solar Bylaw Study Committee. I joined a little later than the rest of the gang, but we spent the better part of 9 months very carefully studying and crafting what we believe to be a very sound bylaw to govern how solar is done and administrated in our town. Nothing is perfect. And one of the things that we thought about was we can't let perfect be the enemy of good. We have to come up with something that is workable, that is fair both to the landowners and residents of our town and to our planet and our forests and our environment. And we tried very hard to craft something that met both of those criteria. We were also quite aware of the fact that the Attorney General, before we submitted the bylaw for approval, did turn down the bylaw from last year. We very carefully reconsidered everything and tried to make use of counsel and other research that we had done, and we believe pretty strongly that it will stand as written when it's reviewed by the Attorney General. Granted, that's with a prayer and a paperclip, but we believe it's going to stand. To speak to this
30
article, it's very important. Nobody's going to argue that we need to be careful about solar. I don't believe a moratorium is going to be the right solution. It's kicking the can down the road. We're going to have to deal with it eventually. And I think it's better to take this bylaw that has been approved yesterday and try to perfect it and improve it and keep it as a living document than go with nothing. And the moratorium, in addition to the bylaw that was passed last night, sends the wrong message.
Time.
Thank you.
Am I right?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ronald Bessie, Precinct 1, also a member of the Solar Bylaw Study Committee. So a couple of concerns that I have. The first one is to speak to the previous speaker's point, is passing both the new bylaw and the moratorium, I definitely think sends the wrong message to the Attorney General's office that maybe we don't really know what we want. Or the other thing that I look at, is there was a lot of work, time, effort put into that article that was passed in last night's portion of the meeting. And nothing's going to be perfect. We know that, and we know that things are going to change. Solar could be different 12 months from now. It could be different 6 months from now. We can't predict the future. We can only focus on what's in front of us right now. And what's in front of us right now is trying to stop Wareham from being changed to something that it's not. And I do believe with the time that we've put into this that we've crafted an article that I believe will pass the Attorney General's desk. And I do believe that she will sign off on it. Maybe she comes back with some type of a change to it, but I think the framework is definitely something that is going to be agreed with. And I fear that if we send the wrong message to the Attorney General's office, we lose both and we go back to where we're at. And where we're at isn't good. So I would say to please vote this down and not send a conflicting message to the Attorney General's office. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left?
Hello, my name is Sherry Quirk, and I'm from Precinct 3. I am also a relatively new member of the Planning Board, although I'm not here speaking for the Planning Board. Fuller disclosure, I'm a lawyer, and I've been a practicing energy lawyer for about 40 years. And so, and I came into the process of looking at solar in this town a little bit late. I've taken a look at the solar bylaws and at the moratorium, the AG's opinion. Just wanted to offer this perspective. As I read the AG's opinion, I believe that she is concerned about, obviously, restraints or constraints on solar. She indicated that perhaps a moratorium would be a good idea for a town seeking to get its arms around solar, and made some affirmative comments about it. Having said that, though, I do understand the Solar Bylaw Committee has done a lot of work to craft bylaws that will pass muster and that will be good for the town. And I think the Solar Bylaw Committee did a very good job in that exercise. My concern is that at this point, none of us know what may be acceptable. And on a continuum of risk, if the town wants to get its arms around solar, I believe that approving both articles is in its best interests gives the town more opportunity to develop something that is acceptable to the Attorney General and allows the town to craft acceptable bylaws, if indeed the current ones are not. So I offer this perspective that both it would be good to support and pass both, and that in my opinion it would be in the best interest of the town.
30 seconds.
We would not want to be in a position where the moratorium is voted down and the bylaws go forward and they're also voted down. I think that would be a bad position for the town to be in. I can't practice law in Massachusetts, but I practice law a lot and feel very firmly about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes, thank you. First, procedurally, the Attorney General is not going to review the laws. If these both were passed and went up to her, she's not going to review the laws in tandem. She's going to review one. She's going to determine whether it violates the state constitution, and if it doesn't, she's going to determine whether it violates state law. And the same will happen with the other. These will be independent reviews of each one that gets sent up to her. She is not concerned with how the interplay happens down here if they both come through. That's not her job. Her job is simply to determine legality under the state constitution and under state law. So to the one previous speaker's concern about that, that's not going to confuse her or cause her to do one thing or another. My concern is that moratoriums in particular are extremely difficult to uphold. We talked almost 18 years ago when we passed the Business Development Overlay District. There were people concerned about groundwater protection at that time, and they wanted to pass a moratorium on any permitting, I think it was for water out there. And that failed at town meeting because, we heard from town council at the time that you just can't do these things.
30 seconds.
He had recited to a Brockton case where they tried to enforce a moratorium and they couldn't. This is a state-favored industry. That's the thing we've all got to remember here. This is what Charlie Baker wants. This is what both parties in the House and the Senate want. This is what the international order wants. This is what the UN wants, is to go forward with solar. So you're up against a huge weight of opposition here, and we're the subservient government. So I don't think a moratorium is going to be sustainable. I appreciate the zeal of the petitioner. She's very passionate about this. She works her butt off to try to do something about this, but I think it's a doomed effort. And I would urge you not to vote for this and sustain the prior vote you had last night.
Hi. Gentlemen, am I right?
Thomas Bickey, Precinct 3. I'd like to move the question.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to move the question. Have a second? This will require a 2/3 vote. It's not debatable. If this passes, then we end all debate, and I will call for a vote on the article. All those in favor of ending debate, moving the question, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. It passes by an uncounted 2/3 vote. We now will take a vote on the article that is before you, Article 19. The motion is before you on the screen. This does require a 2/3 vote. I'd like to try for a voice vote. All those in favor of Article 19, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Chair is in doubt. Tellers, please come forward.
I agree with what she said. I agree with what Sherry Quirk said. It doesn't have to have both.
All those in favor, please raise your cards.
With my card. There. That's all. Hey, good man.
On my right,
7.
In the center,
14.
on my left. 12. In the front, 19. All those opposed, please raise your cards. On my right,
2.
in the center,
12.
on my left. 12. Up front. I'm sorry? 6. The vote is 52 in the affirmative, 32 in the negative. It fails to reach a two-thirds vote. Article 10.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate $7,009,472 from the Water Pollution Control Facility, WPCF, enterprise revenues, and that $1,183,409 from WPCF betterment revenue, betterment reserves to defray WPCF direct cost, and that $863,766 as appropriated under Article 7 of the Spring 2022 Annual Town Meeting be used for the WPCF indirect cost to fund the total fiscal year 2023 operation cost of the Water Pollution Control Facility Enterprise Fund.
I have a second.
Second.
To speak to the article?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The enterprise fund budget is in the administration handout in pages 11 and 12, and it goes to 13, excuse me. 11 shows the revenue that's generated, the offset, and then the expenses, including the debt. That's the betterments. Those are for previous sewer projects, and then the other debt is for other types of borrowing. So the also shows some of the capital stabilization fund. And there's the capital items that they have going forward are ones that you've already voted upon. So, thank you.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen voted 5-0-0.
Have the vote recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee voted 6-0-0.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 10? Seeing no one standing, I will call for the vote. For the budget of the Water Pollution Control Facility Enterprise Fund, it requires majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Passes by majority. Article 11.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town approve and fund the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Wareham and Massachusetts Laborers Public Employees Council Union 1249 of the Laborers International Union of North America, Wareham Wastewater Treatment Plant Union, and the United Steelworkers AFL-CIO CLC Local Union 13507, Unit 7, Lower Managers Union, and lastly, the United Steelworkers AFL-CIO CLC Local Union 13507, Unit 8, Upper Managers Union.
I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to speak to the article.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So the first one is the laborers contract, and the other two are the steelworkers. Steelworkers, the Unit 8 is the managers, and then Unit 7 is sort of the middle management, if you will. They were negotiated together, the steelworkers. It was over several months we worked to negotiate this. So they are basically, they're those the same exact contracts. So I'll go over one. It's for a 3-year period ending through, so it'll be for fiscal 23, 24, 25. One of the first things is putting in evaluations and their formats within the contract. The next item is just making sure we define a personal day and personal leave. There's amendment to the holidays. The union contracts have any holidays that are voted in at the federal, by the governor, or by other measures. So when a new holiday comes up, that's something that would be added. Vacation, this contract removes bonus vacation days. They're no longer eligible for those. The salary rates for fiscal year 23, there's a 3% increase. Fiscal 24, a 2%, and fiscal 25, a 2%. Since really with the bonus vacation days that were removed because frankly they can't take them, and we were buying them out anyways. This allows for longevity in their place. So I know every year this gets asked, so I will do it ahead of time. For the lower unit, there are 20 individuals impacted by this. It's a total of 65,000, a little over, and it averages just under $3,300 per member. The department heads, Unit 12, the total is of 53,000, a little over, and it goes just over $4,400 per member. The wastewater, this is the laborers. It changed the definition of overtime on one element. We have some people that work, their work week is, call it Wednesday through through Sunday or something. Their 5-day work week. So when they get called in on a Tuesday or they get called in on a Wednesday on their 2 days off, well, they're not getting compensated for the what you would for the sort of the Sunday pay that the other people have on the normal schedule, and that rectifies that situation. Increases boot allowance to $500 per year. I can assure you they are not taking their boots home to wear them around, and they have to change them a few times a year. So this is a 2-year contract with them. One of the reasons is it's getting darn near impossible to hire operators. I think the director and the assistant town administrator are going crazy trying to hire left and right. So one of the things that we're looking into over the next few years is whether a privatization makes sense for the plant. So that's something to look into. So that's why you do a 2-year. Does not guarantee anything, but it allows us some time to try and figure out an option. If you know kids that want to have a job outside of school, send them into wastewater. So. Yeah, well, yeah, don't. I said that's strange. I apologize. And then the first year of the contract is a 3%, and then the second year is a 2%. There's a total of 7 individuals impacted, and their average is $2,887. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen, please?
The Board of Selectmen voted 4-0-0.
I have the vote recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends based on 6-0-0.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 11? Seeing no one standing, I will call for a vote. This calls for a majority vote. The motion is before you for union contracts. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes by a majority. Article 22. We have one more after that. Okay.
Madam Moderator, there's a petitioned article.
Oh, I'm sorry. There is a petition article. Mrs. Ekstrom, I believe.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move the town move to amend Division 1, Article 1, Section 2 of the town's bylaws to read, "Town meeting shall be legally called, and all petitions for insertion of articles in any warrant shall be in accordance with Section 2-4 of Article 2 of the Wareham Home Rule Charter."
Do I have a second? Have a second to speak to your article?
As we saw last night, when people hear what they want to hear, they leave. And earlier this evening, when I was when the article mentioned to have town meeting on Saturdays, a lot of people got up and said, no, we can find babysitters and things like that if it really matters to us. This is for people who maybe, they can't get here the whole time. Maybe they do have to come home from work, feed the kids, get them in the baths, get them in bed before they can get here. If something that they're looking for isn't on until the end of the warrant, then they could come in and check in later. Or they could come and they could leave because they'd have an idea of when whatever they're looking for is going on. We don't have a quorum. There is no minimum quorum. That's what we used to do the lottery for, so that people, because we needed 100 people for all articles, 150 for anything over $5,000. Because now our quorum is 0, none of us could show up and everything could pass. So I think that people should be able to count on when they want to, when an article may be coming up and plan accordingly. That's all.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen voted 1-4-0.
I have the recommendation of the Finance Committee in the vote.
Finance Committee voted 8-0-0 to refer.
Thank you. Anything further to be said, gentlemen on my right?
Thomas Pickey, Precinct 3. I rise in opposition to this article. I think it disrespects all the people who are sitting here who spent the evening listening to various articles. My concern, and it should be your concern as well, that special interest groups will come here, flood the meeting when they know their article is going to be presented, and then leave like we saw last night. As soon as that vote was done, dozens and dozens of people got up and left. And if this remaining body takes their valuable time to come to this meeting and listen to the articles in the lottery system, I think that will encourage more people to stay here through a whole bunch of articles that perhaps maybe they had no interest in, but maybe are enlightened when they hear the discussion. So I ask you to vote in the negative for Article 22.
Thank you. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yeah, interestingly, my understanding is that the lottery system was originally adopted because the selectmen prepare the warrant. That comes under our hands. And we are the ones who put the articles on the warrant. We're the ones who number it. And I believe that the concern was that the selectmen could stack warrant with their priorities first if there were not a lottery system to take them out of order. That's what I was told, the reason for this originally being implemented. So I'm actually up here asking you to vote no and don't give the selectmen the power to stack the warrant in their favor going forward. Because remember, that's really a ministerial task that the selectmen do in assembling the warrant. Town meeting is the body that needs to have an opportunity for these things. If, for example, we currently put all the petition articles at the end, we don't know when they're going to come up. If you've got a board of selectmen in the future that sticks them all at the end, then people are going to have to, you know, stick it out, and not know when their articles, you know, they're going to get to the article that night, the next night. I think that the current system does encourage participation, notwithstanding the fact that we have a zero quorum requirement. One of the interesting things about the zero quorum requirement is in most towns where it was implemented, it's actually led to more participation. That's kind of a strange effect.
30 seconds.
But in any event, I think the present system works. It keeps the selectmen from stacking the warrant with the stuff they consider important first. And so I think this is the system that's more respectful of the body that's in place now.
Thank you, Time. On my left?
Madam Moderator, through you, Diane Kenny. So if I understand it correctly, when a bunch of people get up and leave, people are offended, and I'm really not sure why. People should do what they want to do. They should vote, they should stay, they should leave. What happened last night was very disappointing to me, but I didn't take it personally. And we had the lottery last night when everybody got up and left. So it doesn't work.
On my right?
Tom Monahan, Precinct 4. As a union president in another town, in fact, there is no system under the earth that's going to prevent people from leaving after they get the vote they want. Whether it's by a lottery or it's by number, and anybody that's ever worked any kind of political system knows that you can stack a meeting, and I don't know what the solution would be, but don't dream of something different than that.
Thank you.
Howard Smith, Precinct 4.
I was going to say gentleman on my right, but then I remembered a couple of meetings ago, the comment that you made.
I know, you'll call me something else when we get home. What can I say?
Gentleman on my right.
Well,
Mr.
for
Smith.
12 years, you told me to keep my mouth shut, and I did. So now it's the last night I got to speak up.
And just so you know, we're completely opposite. I vote yes, he votes no. So, and we respect
It's a
one
free
another.
country. That's what we're all about.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about. And that's why, as I stated earlier, been town meetings over 50 years, have missed very few. But back then, again, I said, we used to go 3 or 4 nights because some of the reason was that they didn't have a quorum. And yes, the quorum has changed, granted. But the thing was, is many a times back then, they wouldn't have a quorum. That's why we had to go 3 or 4 nights. Somebody would call for a quorum count, done and over with. There were a couple of times that we not only finished, we couldn't finish in a week, we had to continue to the following week because people didn't attend. Back then, sometimes if the quorum was down, the fire department, the police department would put out a call over the radio to try to get people to attend so that they could handle the town business, okay? And many a times you'd have to wait half to 3/4 of an hour for enough people to show up to cover the business. So yes, I am offended when things like that happen. That was the second time in over 50 years that I saw that happen. And I think it's disgraceful. What I take it is here I am. What you're doing is you're telling me I'm here for myself and screw the rest of you people. And that's just what was said last night.
Thank you. Am I right?
I don't disagree with what the previous speaker said. I was the victim of last night's departure, mass exodus. I lost my vote 50 to 59 after 70 people left. But just like when I vote on a ballot, I am not required to vote for every single candidate. So therefore, I should not have to sit through every single thing, especially if it's costing me $15 an... Mr. Gibberti?
Stop it right there.
Then please then you address that, Madam Moderator.
Yes, just like I addressed it last night. Finish what you have to say. I'll give you the time that you need, and let's move on.
All I'm saying is that people, if they're paying $15 or $20 an hour to have a babysitter, or are trying to get a ride here and get a ride home because they don't drive at night, they should be able to get an idea. I've been in meetings before when something has happened, and because they're live on TV, people have come running in within 5 minutes to try to address an issue. So people can or
30
should,
seconds.
people can or should be able to vote for what they want and not get trapped here. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left?
Thank you, Sandy Slavin, Precinct 3. I ask you to defeat this article. We're here to do the town business. How long it takes, how many people are here. We should hear all the articles, we should hear all the discussions, and we should all vote whenever it comes up in the lottery. I don't like the idea like we used to have, one after the other. You stay, you get what you wanted or not, and you leave, leaving the rest of the town business unattended or unsupported. So please defeat this.
Thank you. On my right?
Annie Hayes, Precinct 5. I agree with the ideal of having people sit through the entire meeting. I also know, and I think we all know, how low civic engagement is. And if people are interested enough, passionate enough about one issue, it gets them here, it gets them engaged. Maybe they'll stay for another hour. I saw that on the notice vote, and really listen to what their fellow citizens are saying. So I am in favor of this.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin?
Good evening, hopefully for the last time. The lottery was something that I put together with town council, and the main reason was, of course, is the way things came down. We had issues, you know, with the 150 people needed in order to have a item over $5,000, so there's always a possibility they would be unable to pass the budget, which means we'd have to have another town meeting. And I also brought up through the zero quorum some years later, because, again, there was no guarantee we're going to have enough people to do it, and it's too much of a risk not to be able to pass your budget. The whole idea of this is town meeting is a very unique thing. It's really a New England thing, number one. It's, as everybody knows, the truest form of a democracy, really. Everybody here has a right to vote, no matter what their position is and what they want. It is a disgrace when people don't come at all, number one. It's more of a disgrace when you make an effort to come for one item and you walk out, which means you don't care what the other people who put articles together. Mrs. Ekstrom said she was disappointed that she lost an article last night because everybody left. I'd be more than disappointed. I'd be very upset with every one of those people who left. It's simple as that. The bottom line is that the lottery still has effects, because if we had the Deacon's item come up first last night, we would have lost a whole bunch of people, and articles that, you know, got passed may have not got passed. So if you're going to get rid of the lottery because you think it's going to make a difference that way, it's not. It gives us a chance to do it. But at the end of the day, we need to teach our children and ourselves that we have a unique opportunity.
30 seconds.
You can vote for what you want in life. You can go to a lot of other countries, you can't do anything. So don't destroy the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman on my right?
Madam Moderator, Irvin Russell, Precinct 6. And they say the definition of genius is saying the obvious first. I am choosing. Last night we had an exception to the rule, and that was very obvious. The town moderator chose to make an exception, and there is all exceptions in life. You know, that is the condition of human beings. We adjust to the needs of the moment, and so be it.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 22? Seeing no one standing, I will call for a vote. This requires a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The article fails. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our last article. This is my last article. Again, I say thank you for the privilege of being here. I appreciate those who came tonight, who have an interest. I read on social media all the time, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? You know, where's the money go? You have the power of the purse. This is where it happens. This is where people should come. This is where they should speak to things that they have questions on and get the answers. So as I leave here tonight, my mission is going to be to continue to push people to come to town meeting. I think it's important. I really do. So I leave this job, but my next job is to try to interest people in taking part in their community. So I thank you for being here. On your way out, the town clerk said, please throw your cards in the barrel. So our very last article is Article 16. May I have a motion, please?
One six.
1-6.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the care, control, and custody of the East Wareham School, so known to the Wareham Board of Selectmen, for general municipal purposes and sale or disposition.
Second.
To speak to the article?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The school department no longer utilizes the East Wareham School, so the next step would be to turn it over to the town, and then the process of what happens next, which could be anything and/or disposition of it, that's how you have to go through the process. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have the vote recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen voted 5-0-0.
May I have the vote recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted 8-0-0.
Is there anything to be said on Article 16, our final article of the evening? Mrs. Ekstrom?
Thank you. I couldn't just be quiet for the last 2 minutes. I have no problem with us taking it back from the school committee. However, my understanding is that the deed on this said that if it is no longer being used for a school, it has to be returned to the heirs of the gentleman who gave us the land. So can or should the town be taking it back? It was a school, or should the school have to contact the descendants of that property? Or can the town do it? I'm not sure. I mean, that's what the deed says.
Thank you. Our town council is willing to answer your question.
I wouldn't put it that way.
To try and answer your question.
So, Madam Moderator, through the previous speaker, you're correct. There is a deed restriction in there, and if the meeting votes in favor of this article tonight, the town will have to do at least two things. It will have to, possibly, now I'm starting to sound like a Monty Python sketch. At least three things. Sorry. Number one, contact the heirs to see if they have any interest and whether they're willing to surrender whatever rights they may or may not have. So that's number one. Number two, file a petition with the Attorney General. It's called a si pre petition, which is Latin for so close or so near, wherein we ask the Attorney General to waive the deed restriction on behalf of the heirs. It's not a quick process. It's been done. I've done it in other communities, but that's one way of doing it. And then, because, as I say, that's not a quick process, if the meeting votes to transfer custody of the school tonight, we don't want to be in, per se violation of a deed restriction, obviously.
Correct.
So, what I would recommend, and I'm not sure I've told our executive branch here this yet, but what I would do is, during the pendency of any heirs request or si pre petition, whichever way we go, find some educational activity that you can put in the building, at least for the moment while we navigate through that process, and that would be sufficient to satisfy the deed restriction. You know, it could be a class with, well, I mean, I don't want to be ridiculous, but one person, it could be a class with 100 persons. As long as there's some educational activity, you're okay. I know in one community where I did this, we put a dance studio in there for, gosh, it seemed like about 2 years. But that's what would happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, but it is okay for the school to give it to the town, because it was for the school first. It was actually, it was back, and it was said something like that, the general area, it was the person's intent for that they had an educational thing, so they did it for school purposes. So is it okay for us to take it? I don't, I'm fine with it, as long as we do it the right way.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do
It's not a question.
you want to respond? No? Am I right?
Joyce Bakyaki, Precinct 4. I actually have the deed, and it was originally deeded to the town of Wareham. So, and that was information that was shared with the school committee before we voted to approve this article. So I just wanted to offer that information.
Thank you. Attorney Bowen?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And I know you had an opinion from school council to that effect, but sort of further along, buried in the weeds of the deed, it's kind of rhyming, there is a provision, a reversionary provision in there that will have to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on my last and final motion to ask for a vote for? This does require a 2/3 vote because we're transferring it from one committee, one town entity to the other. I will try for unanimous. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It is unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for being here tonight.
We're gonna put a class in there. How much we gonna spend to put a class in there?